Hello, and welcome to Spilling the Tea, the podcast where we dive deep into the cutting edge of confidential computing and AI. I'm Lisa Loud from Secret Network, and I'll be your host today. We like to get real here and explore the real tech that's shaping the next wave of Web3, from zero knowledge proofs and trusted execution environments to the frontier of privacy preserving machine learning. And joining us today is Peyman Momeni, leader at the intersection of privacy and infrastructure. Peyman is the founder of Fairblock and a partner at Hack VC. With a deep technical background from the University of Waterloo's Cryptography, Security, and Privacy Lab, he spent his career building the future of secure, decentralized systems. Peyman, welcome to the show.
Thanks a lot. Happy to be here. Excited to have a quick confidential chat.
It won't be that confidential. It'll be pretty public. So let's start. I like to ask people, how did you get here? So what led you to this point in your career? And what was the moment you made a choice to be in this privacy space? Was there something that triggered you? Was there some story you can share with us?
Yeah, of course. There's a bunch of reasons. I've never made a choice. Like there's no day that I made the choice to be a privacy person, right? But I was born in Iran. So obviously, like we didn't have free internet access. We didn't have free
Hmm.
finance for whatever reason, but you pretty much experience not having privacy, not having your sovereignty and dignity on a daily basis. And that was my ideological um, starter. And then when I moved to Hong Kong for a year, I saw like all of the basically like there is like octopus cards at the time, and then whatever you were spending
Right.
with octopus cards, everyone can see where you can go and what you're spending on. And then it started
Is
my
that
career.
still true? Because I just
Yeah,
was in Hong Kong and I was looking at the octopus cards, and is that still true? You can see what everybody's doing?
yeah, that's the reason that a lot of Hong Kongers use cash. Uh,
Mm,
yeah.
wow.
Um, Yeah, and then I started my technical career in electrical engineering and AI. So my early jobs was basically like building AI tools, and then I realized that the privacy is actually not just an ideology; it's a blocker for businesses. One example was basically cybersecurity. So I was work on privacy preserving databases for a ride-hailing application like Uber, but
Mhm.
it was important for them to have privacy in terms of compliance and in terms of security of that firm. And I work on like many years ago on healthcare, things like
Mm,
psychology and AI, multimodal learning. And today we have ChatGPT is obvious, but at that point, when I was working on that models, I realized that you cannot commercialize this stuff if you don't have privacy. People will not trust them. And then I moved to Canada. It was around the same time that there was the truckers movement, and you may
right, in Ottawa? Mhm.
agree or disagree with the movement, but it wasn't cool that people cannot support each other or say what they want, right? And I found
Mhm.
that even it's not only a Middle Eastern experience, right, or Asian experience. It's even in like one of the most free countries. It's a little bit shaky in the time of crisis. You may not have financial or freedom or like freedom of speech in some sense. Um, and then I started working in cryptography security privacy lab. So one of my supervisors was Sergey Gorbanov, founder of Axelar. He was working on a lot of
Mm,
cryptography projects on Algorand side. And I didn't know much about blockchains at that point. Like my first salary was in Bitcoin. I was running like miners before, but in terms of engineering, I got basically nerd snipe in the MEV space, and I
oh,
realized, oh, like
yes.
we don't have privacy on chain. It's like just
No,
anonymity,
right?
right? Which
Yeah.
was a very interesting observation. So I started looking into like encrypted mempools from the research point of view. In the same time, I have a very interesting course with Ian Goldberg, one of the original cypherpunks in Waterloo, working on Tor browser. And we had
Mm-hmm.
a joint course with the psychology department, sociology department, and computer science working. And the course was about surveillance and capitalism, right? So I got like some early, like more ideological reasons in the sense that because of ad tech or like how AI agents basically are going to force humans to do whatever the global objective function is asking us to do. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
important to have like some sovereignty in the sense that you don't need to share like all of your thoughts or like all of your activities with everyone. That's like the only
So
way.
were you both students in that class? You and Ian Goldberg?
No, no, he was the professor, supervisor,
Oh,
yeah,
I
same
see.
supervisor for Vitalik. Yeah.
Okay. Right. So that's a very interesting story, and it's interesting how that kind of probably shaped your philosophy and your ideology and set you on a path to that got you where you are today.
Yeah, it's a mix of like practical privacy and also like some like
Mhm.
optimistically humans. Yeah, but I've been always um, kind of disappointed by how privacy space is a little bit ideological. Just as an example, like we have Tor
Mhm.
browser, we are proud of it, but very few people are even able to use it
Using it.
like on
Yeah.
Iraq. Right? It's too slow. It's hard. It basically
Mhm.
affiliates you with shady actors, right? And we kind of have the
Right.
same experience in crypto. It's isolated. It's slow. It's somewhere else in another chain. So like having the first-hand experience of like bad UX of privacy, I was always motivated to find something that is easy to use, like HTTPS or some VPNs. It's like
Mhm.
usable, but also it doesn't affiliate you with bad people. Right?
Right. Yeah, walking that line between convenience and privacy and trying to stay on the side of the good. So what problem in privacy or trust did you feel was specifically unsolved when you founded Fairblock?
Yeah, it was mostly around sending your transfers and leaking your amounts of your like swaps and trades and getting
Mhm.
front run. And later, we realized that with the stablecoin adoption, with like the fintech adoption of like a lot of banks are going on chain, a lot of institutions are going on chain, and it's not a matter of not sharing your cat videos and like on Facebook. It's not that ideological for a lot of common sense business logic. Nobody wants to share their payroll on chain, right? Nobody like market makers don't want to share how much
Of
money they make,
course.
right? So
Yeah.
that's the bigger
Yeah,
problem.
do you think that's what I'm hearing the answer to my next question, but I'm going to ask you anyway. When people hear privacy, what do you think they misunderstand most often? Is it this good versus bad element, or is it something else?
Yeah, I think there's a lot of misconceptions. I think there is a natural tendency to oversimplify all privacy projects and force fit them into one category. For example, we have VPNs, IP level privacy, we have anonymity, we have confidentiality, and it's like a lot of technical nuances here. But at the end of
Mhm.
the day, we are solving different problems, right? It's important that what's private. Like that's the first question, where this is private. I think like the best example of that is incognito mode, right? Even outside crypto, a lot of people think that privacy is incognito mode, and they don't know like
Mhm.
not
I
that
see.
private, right? We have
Yeah.
pretty much the same problem in crypto. A lot of people still think that like Bitcoin has privacy. It has some level of privacy because of
Right.
anonymity, but it's not that private.
Mhm.
Or they may
Right.
think that like ZKA is like has already solved the privacy problem. Or if you are using a sex, you have like privacy. So it's at the end of the day, there is a lot of assumptions, different problems, and it doesn't necessarily mean that privacy is slow. Privacy is not slow in internet, right? Like like even
Right.
right now that we are talking, our communication is encrypted and it's not slow. It's a matter of engineering and good design.
Yeah, good point. So where do people care about privacy? What are the edges looking like today? Where is it getting adopted? Where is it not getting adopted? And what's the newest thing in this field? What are you seeing over the last few months?
Yeah, I think there is in general three challenges. One of them is performance in the sense, and UX, right? In the sense that like privacy shouldn't be in an isolated chain. You shouldn't be asked to bridge your funds to have privacy. It should be a seamless experience for users. It should be developed. Yeah, it should be integrated by developers in your applications in the chains that users are already using it, and it shouldn't be like that is slow. Like some of the ZK solutions today are great, but it takes like 3 minutes to generate a proof. Um, Realistically, that's not great. Obviously, we are going to make it faster with technology advancements, but there are other ways that are faster as well. Yeah, that's like the performance aspect of it. Just to be fair, there is like MPC approaches that doesn't scale well as well. It may take
Hmm.
a lot of I don't know, like it may be fast on the user side, but on the network side, it may be is very slow. Uh, Second part is security. We may not need perfect security for a lot of applications. It's not free, but there's a lot of trust assumptions. You may rely on centralized off-chain co-processors. You may rely on only hardware security or like honest majority assumption.
Hmm.
There's a lot of assumptions that normally people don't talk about it. And it's fine. Like for some applications, it's good enough. And
Right.
but that's like a
Compromises.
common question that like when you're basically introducing a solution, what's your assumptions and does it make sense for this specific application or not? At what cost? And
Mm.
the third thing that I think is less explored is compliance. Like normally people are very polarized about these arguments. On one side, there's people who think that we should have perfect transparency, everything should be leaked. That's the promise of crypto. It doesn't really, yeah, they don't like to have any privacy. Either they really believe in the current blockchain systems, or they're like government actors that they think that nothing should be private, right? On the
Hmm.
other side, there are people who are a little bit more ideological and think that everything should be private, right? Your identity, your actions, your like whatever you are doing, and it's not very practical in the real world, right?
Right.
Or and
So somewhere in the middle.
yeah. So
Mm.
it's not an easy answer. Like it needs a lot of clever choices to find like how we can balance these things.
Mhm. Yeah. So you mentioned assumptions, and I think you're also referring to compromise. Where we make the compromises, where it's important to have privacy, and where it's not important, where it's important to have transparency, or maybe where it's not worth the extra cost to have
Yeah.
privacy. Yeah. Would you say there are transparency maxis and privacy maxis? Can we apply that term?
Yeah, I think there it is like a very common thing in crypto that like whomever is in the middle may not be that popular, right? But historically, good engineers are in the middle.
Very interesting. Historically, good engineers are in the middle. I think that's a good soundbite right there. Because in our world, we tend to polarize quite a lot these days, and I think that's very interesting to think that thoughtful engineers may be somewhere in the middle. They
Yeah.
see the benefits of privacy, the benefits of transparency, but they're not going all out on either one. So let me ask you, in your view, where do trusted execution environments really actually help us? And where where are they overhyped? Like where are these privacy maxis maybe trying to apply trusted execution environments where they don't fit?
Yeah, a very clear example of this is that with ZK, you cannot have like confidential, like ML, right? Machine learning or like confidential AI in general. It doesn't solve the problem fundamentally. Like it's not about the like being slow, right? And other approaches that can solve it with cryptography, like MPC or FHE, are
Hmm.
not fast enough for big models that we are using these days. For example, if you want to have like 20 billion parameters model and run it on-prem or like send it to a cloud, it just simply doesn't work today. Maybe in 5 years with hardware acceleration, we will get there, but it's not there. So right now we have the realistic choice of you should either use on-prem models, and for a lot of people this makes sense. If you're a big company, If you are technical enough and you have the time to build an on-prem model for your using an open source model or work with a closed source like provider and build your own ML model, that's the perfect choice, right? You are not leaking anything to anyone else, right? But
Right.
if you don't have that luxury and you are going to use ChatGPT or like Anthropic models, then there's two ways. Like you should either trust them and buy the enterprise solutions, or you
Hmm.
should use like TEs, right? And the model would run in a TE. And this is almost good. Like it adds like 8%, 10% overhead to your computation, and then you get
Yeah, not too bad.
some
Hmm.
privacy, right? It's not like for those people who care about privacy for their businesses or for their personal needs, that's great, right? And so like we can't say like, oh, like TE sucks because of the like all of the security assumptions. It's much, much better than like the status quo of like what other options, right? Another example of
So
this is sorry. Another
just to
example.
ask you a question about that. So are you saying the Anthropic enterprise model, you can put it into a TE, but you have to have the enterprise version, right? Because if you're using the openly available public version and paying a subscription, of course, but it's not enterprise, there's no way to put that in a TE, is there?
Yeah, so if it's an open source model, you can put it in a TE. But if
Right.
it's a closed source model, like unless you have a partnership or something, you cannot run the
Mhm.
model in a TE. So you need to basically trust them to do the correct job.
Let me ask you then, what are you protecting users from, or who are you protecting users from? And what are you not even trying to protect them against?
Mhm. Yeah. So in the context of Fairblock, we are specifically focusing on confidential transfers for tokenized assets or stablecoins. And people like our general partners or people who are interested to work with us are normally like institutions or enterprises who want to do like on-chain activity, like a simple payroll, simple treasury operation. And they are not comfortable sharing their revenue, their payroll details, their sensitive business logic or strategies on-chain, right?
Hmm.
They typically, like 80% of the cases, they don't care about identity and anonymity. They care about actions. They care about protecting the numbers and their actions on chain. And it's not free. Like adding like the anonymity may introduce sometimes compliance friction, but you can get away with that. Like if you KYC them and everything, but it's also not free in the sense of performance. It may add, like
Hmm.
using a ZK solution will definitely uh, it's not great like in terms of runtime or in terms of like
Right.
the complexity of this.
Performance.
Yeah.
Hmm. Yeah, I'm going to throw a curveball at you a little bit. How will things change when quantum becomes an everyday reality?
Yeah, I think quantum computers may be around right now for like government agencies.
Hmm.
I don't think the first target would be like hacking like an address on a blockchain. It may be more of an infrastructural risk or like national security risk. But once we have like commercialized quantum computers, everything can be in danger.
Hmm.
And the first step is basically like signatures. So we can have like signatures that are quantum resistant, and we already have quite a bit of a standard. And they may be even faster in verification, but the challenge is that they're bigger in terms of like size of the message, like 10x bigger than what we are using right now. But and sometimes like a lot of people say that we need to act now, which is true a lot of like 50% of cases. But in like for signatures, you can update them after the fact as well. You can send your transfers to
Interesting.
another account and
Hmm.
use like signatures. This is about like your wallet, right? This is like your address and protecting your funds to not get hacked. But there's also like in the blockchain space, like validator signatures are also something interesting because like if someone managed to basically fork the blockchain like that and hack a lot of the validator signatures, that's like a bigger threat. But I also think that there is other bigger priorities in the world that like blockchains may not be the first target for that.
Mhm. Although, what do you think about the use case for um, unlocking Bitcoin wallets that haven't been touched for years, where there might be billions in there?
Yeah, yeah, that's true. So that's like definitely a big risk, and it's hard for Bitcoin because it's really not easy, not an easy move to convince the Bitcoin church to change their code and signatures.
True, true. Yeah, it's interesting as we watch that unfold. Um, so, you think that we're how many years away from commercially available quantum computers?
Yeah, it's uh, cryptography prophecy. It's not really easy. A lot of people say that maybe we are 5 years away or maybe 10 years away, which is
Mhm,
probably true, maybe even longer. Uh, but things that may make us a little bit worried is history, because in history, like we didn't know in the World War that some country is building nuclear technology,
mhm,
or like we didn't know that internet was developed like for 10 years, or the first computer was developed by yeah, the UK for just for like national security reasons, and that was the first computer for breaking the code, right?
mhm.
Uh, but for commercial stuff, I think like we are a little bit really far from that day.
Yeah, I guess we don't know what we don't know is the point,
Yeah, and also like it may change in a day, right? It's
right? So, coming back to Fairblock, what do you think is the single clearest real world use case for Fairblock today? Not a future promise, but something that it can actually solve in today's world.
yeah. What we are already solving is like, for example, if you have USDC on chain and
Hmm.
everybody can see your transfer amounts, we can make it encrypted. So your balance and transfer amounts are encrypted, and people watching the block explorer cannot see that. And it
Hmm.
can be used for like we are already working with enterprises protecting their activities on chain, their payroll, their treasury operations. We are working with restaurants, even more real world example, that they want to protect their revenue. They don't want to simply they're accepting USDT for their even you're buying sushi, you're paying them with USDT, but they don't want to share how much they're making money.
Right. That's great. I like real world use cases and actual applications. What are you thinking about key management and access control to make sure that privacy, doesn't become that centralized single point of failure?
Yeah, really good question. So what we have right now doesn't have like a key management system in the sense that someone else should manage your keys. Basically, it
Mhm,
works with like current. If you are using like a non-custodial wallet, yeah, like MetaMask, you can just use that for our confidential transfers as well, and we extract the private key for encryption from your private key that you are already managing it in your wallet. So we are not
mhm,
adding any extra key management system here. But if you are using like MPC approaches or other approaches, like there may need to be a committee, like a decentralized committee to hold the key. But that's
mhm.
not what we are using.
Right. Okay, so something that you're looking at for the future, perhaps.
For this application, it's not really needed.
Mhm,
MPC or FHE, like threshold FHE, may need. There's like some use cases that there is a need for like an external committee to decrypt it. But for
mhm.
kind of P2P transfers, like I send like a confidential transfer to the other guy, there is no need for external key management.
I like how you carve out the area where Fairblock solves problems and don't try to boil the ocean. But so here's where it applies. Here's where it doesn't apply. That's unusual in a founder. It's great. So, last question for you today. I'll ask you also your vision of the future after this, but for the last question, what does compliance friendly privacy mean to you? And where do you personally stand on that line between disclosure and between transparency and privacy?
Yeah, good question. So compliance can mean two things when it comes to privacy. Sometimes privacy is compliance in the sense that, as an example, if you are using an AI tool or if you are using like stable coins, your company internal policies, right, or the regulations in your country may need you to actually have privacy, and you may get sued by SEC or like because of like things like California Data Privacy Rights Act. So companies are actually looking to have privacy, not because they are good people, because they may get sued, right? It's like their compliance
Hmm.
requirements. So
Right.
when we talk about compliance, it's always like compliance versus privacy, but in many cases, it's privacy is
It's
compliance.
both. Right.
And
Yeah.
but like compliance in the sense that we know, like basically, it can be protecting against money laundering and tax evasion and funding terrorism. This kind of use
Hmm.
cases. Um, I like to basically separate these things like tax evasion. I think you may want to protect yourself from others, like your friends, your families, people watching your Black Explorer, or like bots and like other companies who want to extract information about you. You are not
Hmm.
necessarily trying to hide it from government actors, and you can have selective disclosure. It doesn't mean that you're automatically sharing everything with the government proactively or everything is completely leaked on chain so they can run analysis tools. But if they ask, if there is a good reason for them to ask, there is a key that you can share with them, right? So this is fine, like an average, like US citizen or any other citizen, they're not going to fight the government and not share their information if they get asked. That's like the real world. How it works is that,
So does
um,
the user have the control over that, or
yeah,
you have the control over
yeah.
that?
So for this specific use case, users have control for that, right? They
Yeah.
can
Makes
selectively
sense.
disclose,
Hmm.
and exactly like banks. Like banks are not automatically sharing what you are doing in your accounts with governments. They only report it like once like certain conditions meet or they get asked for it. Or like big tech companies like Google, sometimes they don't store the information, sometimes they store it, but once they get asked, for example, by NSA, they hold like a
Hmm.
committee meeting, and then they try to not share in the first um, meeting, right? And then like one
Hmm.
in some rare cases they share, and then after the year, like each year, there is like a transparency report, right? And how many accounts we shared with like this kind of government agencies.
Right.
I think the bigger problem is that if you have full anonymity and like you are using mixing approaches, the challenge is that you may get your funds may get mixed with like
Right.
national foreign states trying to like fund terrorism. That's the bigger problem that like even US government cares more about.
Hmm.
And in that case, you cannot realistically ask that government agents, the foreign government, to selectively disclose their activities, right? So in this kind
Right.
of situations, you may need to design a system that doesn't allow it in the first step. For example, like filtering addresses that are sanctioned, or not allowing like mixing architectures, just keeping it to like traceable transfers but confidential. That's what we are doing. But if you're allowing something like anonymity that can have basically dual use cases, but good actors and bad actors, it's not like, unfortunately, it's not enough to say that like you need to show good intents to the governments so they don't come for you, right? That's unfortunate, but I think that's the reality. And in these cases, now you have the choice to not share everything or share everything. And I think the good uh, basically practice is like somewhere in the middle, in the sense that a lot of solutions, there is one key, a backdoor key for all transfers. And that may
Yeah.
get
Yeah.
hacked, or that get, I don't know, like someone may just share it to keep it easy, right? The best practice is like if you can have things like identity-based encryption, and only
Right.
share like a subset of transfers only for this user with the government agency. So they can,
Hmm.
first, they should submit like a transparent request on chain so everyone can see that there is a request for decrypting this specific account. And then
Hmm.
like a committee of auditors or committee of trusted people can generate like a decryption key for that specific auditor for that specific user or set of like transactions. That's like what we are
Well,
trying to do. Yeah.
Yeah, you've clearly thought a lot about that. That is the most thoughtful answer I've ever received to that question. So, very impressive. And I liked what you said. You've clearly thought about all the nuances and building the best possible solution.
Thanks a lot.
So, what do you see as where do you think we'll be next year on privacy, on everything that Fairblock is building? What do you hope to see next year this time?
Yeah, I think I'm pretty excited because of yeah, crypto space right now is not that exciting, just to be honest. But there's a lot of good things happening still, in the sense that a lot of big banks are already integrating stable coins. A lot of enterprises and institutions are going to use stable coins and tokenized assets. There's no question about that. It's already happening. And we are already working with a lot of these names to adopt like confidentiality for their like assets. So I think there is no doubt that future is not going to use the same rails that we are using today. And in that future, hopefully we can have privacy, but even better privacy than today. Because what we have in blockchains today is objectively worse than what we have in TradFi. First, we had cash, and then we had credit cards, and it's less private. And then we have like banks, it's less private. And then we have blockchains, which is exactly zero privacy. So
Right.
my optimism is that we make a situation that we are closer to cash and like
Hmm.
even more transparent. Exactly like
Right.
using the same analogies that has been working in the real world, and
Hmm.
but making the whole process more transparent. It shouldn't be like a silent backdoor for like auditing and compliance and someone running an AI code to analyze
And
all of the network. Some like it should be like an on-chain request and only decrypting it for a specific party when it's needed.
a noble vision. I hope that we achieve that vision too.
Yeah.
You're optimistic. That's great. That's good. By next year, or do you think it'll take longer?
Actually, I like yeah. By next year, I think we are seeing a lot of good progress on this run.
Well,
This
we're in
fantastic.
a building phase. We're not in a euphoric phase in the crypto market. So that's usually a sign that people are building. So maybe we'll get there in this year.
Yeah,
Thank you
there
so
are.
much for being with us, Payman. I
Thanks a lot.
really appreciate your thoughtfulness, your thoughtful responses. And how can people find out more about what you're thinking?
Yeah. So Fairblocks website is fairblock.network, and my personal uh, Twitter handle is Pememoni,
Sure.
Peme. Um, yeah, Moni, Moni. So I share a lot of my thoughts on privacy there.
Great. Follow Payman. He is a deep thinker, and look out for his latest. I think you're a futurist, so look out for his latest futurist meandering thoughts because they may just come true.
Yeah, hopefully.
Thank you. This has been Spilling the Tea, and we'll see you at the next episode.
Thanks a lot for hosting me.